back at it, back at it. The 12-week year, we are on chapter 7. Chapter 7, intentionality. Everything you want to accomplish in life requires an investment of your time. So, when you want to improve your results, you must face the fact that your supply of time is completely inelastic and perishable. Even in this era of rapid innovation and technological advancement, time, more than any other resource, still limits our results. When we ask our clients what keeps them from achieving more, most often we hear that it's a lack of time. And yet, time is the most squandered of all personal resources. A study conducted a few years ago by Salary.com found that the average person wastes nearly 2 hours of every working day. The importance of yes and no. The reality is that if you're not purposeful about how you spend your time, then you leave your results to chance. While it's true that we control our actions and not our outcomes, our results are created by our actions. It stands to reason that the actions that we choose to take throughout our day ultimately determine our destiny. In spite of the priceless value of time, many people engage each day on its own terms. In other words, they satisfy the various demands of the day as they are presented, spending whatever time is needed to respond without giving much thought as to the relative value of the activity. This is a reactive approach in which the day is controlling you and prevents you from performing at your best. To realize your potential, you must learn to be more mindful about how you spend your time. Living with clear intention goes against the powerful natural tendency to be reactive because it requires you to organize your life around your priorities and consciously choose those activities that align with your goals and vision. When you spend your time with intention, you know when to say yes and when to say no. You are probably aware when you are procrastinating or engaging in low level activity to avoid tackling a less comfortable, high payoff activity. When you use your time intentionally, you waste less of it and spend more of it on your high value actions. But to do this, you must be willing to be disciplined and structure your days and weeks. The best way to do this is to use your 12-week plan to drive your activity so that in the end, you set your goals for the day instead of letting the day direct you. Intentionality is your secret weapon in your war on mediocrity. It's not enough to be busy, so are the ants. The question is, what are we busy about? Henry David Thoreau. Blocking your time. Benjamin Franklin said, if we take care of the minutes, the years will take care of themselves. This is wise counsel. The challenge in applying this wisdom is that throughout the day, things come up, things you didn't anticipate that will eat up your valuable minutes. Trying to reduce these interruptions usually doesn't work well, and it can be more difficult than just dealing with them. In our opinion, the key to successful time use, intentional time use, is not trying to eliminate these unplanned interruptions, but instead to block out regular time each week dedicated to your strategically important tasks. We call this performance time and find that it is the best approach to effectively allocating time that we have ever encountered. It utilizes a simple time blocking system to regain control of your day and maximize your effectiveness. There are three primary components of performance time: strategic blocks, buffer blocks, and breakout blocks. Strategic blocks. A strategic block is a 3-hour block of uninterrupted time that is scheduled into each week. During this block, you accept no phone calls, no faxes, no emails, no visitors, no anything. Instead, you focus all of your energy on pre planned tasks, your strategic and money making activities. Strategic blocks concentrate your intellect and creativity to produce breakthrough results. You will likely be astounded by the quantity and quality of the work you produce. For most people, one strategic block per week is sufficient. Buffer blocks. Buffer blocks are designed to deal with all of the unplanned and low value activities, like most email and voicemail, that arise throughout a typical day. Almost nothing is more unproductive and frustrating than dealing with constant interruptions, yet we've all had days when unplanned items dominated our time. For some, one 30-minute buffer block a day is sufficient, while for others, two separate 1 hour blocks may be necessary. The power of buffer blocks comes from grouping together activities that tend to be unproductive so that you can increase your efficiency in dealing with them and take greater control over the rest of your day. Breakout blocks. One of the key factors contributing to performance plateaus is the absence of free time. Very often, entrepreneurs and professionals get caught up in working longer and harder, but this approach kills your energy and enthusiasm. To achieve greater results, what's often necessary is not actually working more hours, but rather taking some time away from work. It's not by chance that people often quote the famous proverb, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. When we don't have time off from work, we can lose our creative edge. An effective breakout block is at least 3 hours long and spent on things other than work. It is time scheduled away from your business during normal business hours that you will use to refresh and reinvigorate your mind so that when you return to work, you can engage with more focus and energy. If you are not in control of your time, you are not in control of your results. Performance time applies to more than just strategic buffer and breakout blocks. The more you create routine in your days and week, the more effective your execution will be. The best way to accomplish this is to create a picture of an ideal week. The concept of an ideal week is to plan on paper all the critical tasks that occur in a typical week and organize them so you can be most productive. If you can't fit all the things you do on paper, there is no way you will get them done in reality. So, the exercise of strategically planning your week will cause you to make some hard choices about how you use your time. As you create your ideal week, it helps to schedule routine tasks at the same time on the same day each week, if possible. Consider when you tend to be at your best. Are you a morning person or are you better in the afternoon or evening? Schedule your most important activities during your prime time. We will walk you through how to create your model week in Chapter 17. For many of our clients, performance time has had an immediate impact on results. Just gaining control over a few hours each week often has a dramatic effect. Learn to use your time with greater intention, and you will not only be more effective, but you will also feel a greater sense of control, less stress, and increased confidence. For more on time blocking, join the 12-week year community at www.12weekyear.com/getting started. It's free. So for me, the time blocking, I did it. This was back in like 2023 or 2022 when I first read the book. I did the time blocking in a planner, and that didn't really work for me because by March, like I said in the other video, I wasn't even opening the planner. So I'm thinking about how I'll do it this time around. But that's one way you can do it. If a planner works for you, buy a planner with the time slots, and so you can block off the different time blockings that they're talking about. But now I'm going to figure out another way that I can do it because the specific time blocks in the planner didn't work for me. I may use my phone, the reminders, so set like my 3 hour time block of one section and 30 minutes for the other section, something like that. But personally, I prefer things being written down, but a planner style just doesn't work for me. And with that, that was chapter 7. We will be back for chapter 8. But start thinking about what time of day you're at your prime, how you can schedule time in for your goals throughout the day, especially if you have a 9 to 5 job. How can you schedule throughout the day? So we're looking for strategic blocks, buffer blocks, and breakout blocks. Peace. Boop, boop, boop. The 12-week year. That's actually the perfect shot. The 12-week year. We're on chapter 8 now. Let's get it. Accountability as ownership. Accountability is perhaps the most misunderstood concept in business and life. I agree. Definitely one of the most misunderstood. Most people equate it with bad behavior, poor performance, and negative consequences. As an example, when an athlete does something in violation of the league's conduct policy, the commissioner will state publicly that the league will hold this athlete accountable and then issues a fine or suspension. It's no wonder that most people want nothing to do with accountability. Our last free act, after which no further free acts are possible, is to deny that we are free. Peter Kostenbaum. People often talk about holding others accountable, especially in business situations. Often you'll hear management say something like, we need to do a better job of holding people accountable. I've even heard individuals who truly desire to perform better say, I just need someone to hold me accountable. These types of statements reflect the mistaken notion that accountability is something that can and must be imposed. That's not accountability, that's consequences. In fact, it is impossible to hold someone else accountable. I like to joke that you can hold a baby and you can hold a bag of groceries, but you cannot hold someone accountable. Accountability is not consequences, but ownership. It is a character trait, a life stance, a willingness to own your actions and results regardless of the circumstances. In the book, Freedom and Accountability at Work, applying philosophical insight to the real world, the authors, Peter Kostenbaum and Peter Block, discuss accountability as follows. We have a small way of thinking about accountability. We think that people want to escape from being accountable. We believe that accountability is something that must be imposed. We have to hold people accountable, and we devise reward and punishment schemes to do this. These beliefs are so dominant in our culture that they are difficult to question, yet they are the very beliefs that keep us from experiencing what we long for. The very nature of accountability rests in the understanding that each and every one of us has the freedom of choice. It is this freedom of choice that is the foundation of accountability. Accountability is the realization that you always have a choice, that in fact, there are no have tos in life. Have tos are those things we hate to do, but we do anyway because we have to. The fact is that there are no have tos. Everything we do in life is a choice. Even in an environment where there are requirements of you, you still have choice. But there is a big difference when you approach something as a choose to versus a have to. When something is a have to, it's a burden. It's cumbersome, and at best, you meet the minimum standards. However, the realization that you ultimately have choices creates a different scenario. When you choose to do something, you are able to tap your resources and give your best. It is a much more empowering stance. Ultimately, you choose your actions, your results, your consequences. Accountability is not consequences, it's ownership. All of us have a tendency to look outside of ourselves for things to change and improve. We are waiting for the economy to pick up, for the housing market to turn around, or for our company to come up with a new product, more competitive pricing, or better advertising. It's easy to become a victim to outside circumstances, spending time and energy hoping and imagining what our lives would be like if the world around us were different, believing that these are the keys to improving our results. The truth is, you don't control any of these things. The only things you control are your thinking and your actions. But those are enough if, and that's a big if, you are willing to own them. Don't get the wrong impression that somehow accountability, as we've described it here, is passive. It's quite the contrary. True accountability actively confronts the truth. It confronts the freedom of choice and the consequences of those choices. In this way, accountability is extremely empowering, but you must be willing to confront reality and the truth of your situation. How you view accountability and to what degree you embrace it affects everything you do, from your relationships to your ability to execute effectively. When you understand that true accountability is about choice and taking ownership of your choices, everything changes. You move from resistance to empowerment, from limits to possibilities, and from mediocrity to greatness. At the end of the day, the only accountability that truly exists is self accountability. The only person who can hold you accountable for anything is you. And to be successful, you must develop the mental honesty and courage to own your thinking, actions, and results. And that was chapter 8. Peace.